1 million kilos of cannabis consumed in Australia every year based on wastewater research. 2020, 2021, the birth of flower in Australia, legal, begins.
Possessing, consuming and cultivating small amounts of cannabis will be legal from early next year.
Now, we're capital guys, right? Like you said, two corporate nerds. Our 4,000 square metre facility is a perpetual harvest. Facility can produce 5,000 kilos. I was a cannabis adversary. I didn't believe in this shit. This notion that cannabis is the evil drug, that cannabis is the gateway, I think is a fallacy. Let me tell you what is a gateway. Dan, the drug dealer, is a gateway. He wants to make sure that you're moving up through the product curve. All of a sudden now you can actually go to Dan the doctor instead of Dan the drug dealer, and you can buy flower. We're estimating the legal market today. Imagine going home to your wife and saying, honey.
Tom, thanks for jumping on.
Oh, guys, look, thank you so much for having me. And again, for your listeners and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in on this. I took some time to tell my wife that I was coming here, and I said, you had Sushi Mango on, you got Craig McLaughlin on. She turned around and said to me, I think they got the wrong Tom Varga. I thought, well, fuck, thanks for building my confidence up, sweetheart.
Tom, no, this is exciting, and it's an awesome topic. I'm probably a bit greener on the subject. There you go, little pun. I'm a bit greener on the subject.
I'm probably a little bit more well-versed, you would say, Tom.
You know,
and the good news is it's not a dry topic.
Yeah. So super keen to figure out where it come on the scene, how it's such a big beast today, where it's headed, and all the benefits and all the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. But Tom, take us to where it entered your life. Like you said just beforehand that you didn't really use it. You didn't probably know what it was early on. How did it get on your radar?
Yeah, and look, I'll take the story back. I'm not going to go back to when I was born and mum and dad, right? You don't want that shit. But, I've been a corporate guy my whole life. I've had the luxury of working with amazing mentors at Blue Scope Steel, Macquarie Bank, and worked for a family office and been out on our own and done all sorts of stuff. And then we listed a company with my current co-founder, Matthew Turner. And we'd actually both come off a gig, and Matthew gave me a call one day and said, mate, I've got a meeting in Sydney with Dad. You want to come along? He didn't tell me what it was for because he knew that if he said the word cannabis, I was a cannabis adversary. I didn't believe in this shit. Yeah, okay, at high school, we all might muck around with cannabis and whatever, but I was an adversary. I looked at cannabis like everybody else does and thought, it's a drug. Yep. It's the gateway. What do? You go from cannabis to cocaine to crack. That's the gig, right? And he says, come to the meeting with Dad. I go to the meeting, and his dad was trying to get this cannabis company up. And we went to the meeting.
Can you give me a rough timeline? What year is this? Because 2017 it was legalised for
medicinal use.
Medicinal use. So what year are we talking?
We're talking 19.
Okay.
So 2019.
So a couple of years after.
Couple of years. It's been around. Bill Turner had been having a crack at this.
Not many prescriptions though.
You're spot on. Yeah,
there was like 50,000, 100,000 prescriptions at that time.
Correct. Doctors were still very skeptical. The market was forming. And look, the Office of Drug Control, the ODC, who administer this, who look after and regulate it, had done all the right things, right? They're worried about diversion. They're worried about people, growing this and doing the wrong thing and not recording all the sort of stuff. So we legalise in 16 technically. The bill passes, I think, October 16. So the bill passes in 16. And then we have all this regulation and red tape and no one growing in Australia and all the stuff being imported, all being oil. So you're spot on. By 19, the market was nothing.
So no flour?
No flour at this stage.
So in 2016, it was for oil only, was it?
Yeah, look, so it was legalised, but everyone, the world, was on this oil path, right? So when medicinal starts as an oil market.
And is that vape pen and then
just
drops under the tongue?
Just drops into the mouth, focused on kids and the elderly and seizures and those sorts of things. So
sleep and...
Exactly, and that's where it starts. So we go to this meeting, we meet a bunch of wankers. They're just sharks. They're just trying to fuck us, right? They're asking for 250 grand up front for doing nothing. We leave the meeting. It was in Sydney. We leave the meeting. We go to Circular Quay, drown our sorrows, have a few drinks. I was only there as a visitor anyway. And Bill says, I'm out. I'm out of this cannabis thing. This industry's shit.
That's the dad.
That's the dad.
Old man. Yep.
That's the old man. He says, I'm done. Right. So we're all right. Let's have a few drinks. Maybe we have a few too many drinks. We all go home. Matty calls me in the morning. He says, look, I wasn't sure where your headspace would be on cannabis, and we'll come back to me being an adversary. He said, look, could we give it 30 days? Could we run the numbers? See whether or not there's a market here. So we run the numbers and we go hang out with some really good people, consultants and glass house builders, etc. And 30 days became 60 days, became 90 days, and we went, shit, there's something here. There's something here. There's something here in the product. There's something here in the business, right? And we really see that the industry is changing. Perceptions are changing. So I'll come back to me being an adversary, right? I was on the same path that you and I talked about earlier. What the hell, this cannabis stuff, everyone's going to be stoned. Everyone's going to have days off, right? No one's going to be at fucking work. The sky's going to fall in, right? Like, that's what I thought. I was on that page, and why? Because we see that on TV. Cheech and Chong have a lot to answer for,
They got
frankly.
a new movie coming out.
I know, I just saw, and they asked them some
last
questions.
one,
They said,
yeah.
"Well, you're smoking on while you were filming." Oh, they forced us to. But that was my perception. Two things changed that. The first one is a very good friend of ours got really bad breast cancer, and while she's a little bit off the spectrum, right? She thinks cannabis cured her. I wish cannabis cured her. It didn't, right? Let's not get too excited about that shit. But what ended up happening was she turned to the illicit market to source her cannabis oil rather than the legal market because it was too expensive. It was too hard to find. Seeing a doctor was $400 just for a consult.
Yeah.
Back in 19. And, I thought, that's not right. We need to change the game. So we gave it 90 days and we decided we're going to have a crack. But at this time,
To grow? Were you going to grow or import?
To grow.
So you were like fucking...
To grow.
All in.
We
You
were
weren't
all
just
in.
going to import and then be the middleman. You're like, we can grow this.
we can grow it.
And you'd never grown weed before.
No, no. And we should grow it, by the way. We should. Australia's a phenomenal agriculture and horticulture expert.
Absolutely.
So we should be growing this, right? So we end up going, all right, let's do this. This was pre-COVID, right? We're in now. I should say that Bill Turner got into this because a good mate of his in the army had MND. And his son was growing and sourcing and doing stuff on the illicit market for his dad, right? And so then all of a sudden we had two stories that both had people that were going to benefit medicinally and both who were on the illicit market. So that became the core about why we wanted to do this. So we said, all right, let's buy a site. Right now, we don't grow, by the way, I know a lot about growing cannabis, but I ain't no cannabis grower. Right? We have a Ben Ellerton, 30-year veteran of horticulture in large glass houses.
Did you launch with him?
Yeah, we did because...
So what was that's what I was going to say. So first step, you got two nerds that don't smoke weed.
Sorry, Matty smokes weed.
Oh, did he? All
He
right,
smokes...
we got two nerds.
I'm not
one
saying anything.
smokes
I'm not
weed.
saying anything. We said we're not saying it.
Okay, but you're sitting there and you smoke weeds and you run you go there. This is a changing industry. It's a growing market. But growing weeds it's like a science in itself. Like, what made you think that you guys could do that? And I guess, what was the first step when she said, "Yeah, we're going to do this"? Did you need to go and find your grower, or did you guys how did you figure it out?
Yeah, look, a great question, right? We were very lucky. Ben and Matt are friends from school, known each other since they were like 12 years old or some shit. And it just so happens that Ben was a horticulturalist. And, he was actually going to work on another project. Lucky he didn't. That project went belly up. He was going to work on another project. We said, look, come with us. Come with us. We'll raise the capital. By the way, growing cannabis legally is fucking expensive, right? Really difficult to get into the industry. It almost feels a bit like the building industry.
What's the expensive part? The equipment?
Everything. $500,000 to $1 million to get your license.
So just straight up just for a license?
Just for a license. And it's not the cost of the license. It's the SOPs. It's the plans. It's securing the site. You literally are writing your entire business down on paper so that the Office of Drug Control can look at this and go, you've got the right protections. You've got the right security. You've got the right procedures. You've got the right checks on your people. Because you can't do this if you're not a fit and proper person. Yep. So there's $500,000 up front. And you're not even out of the gates. Right, you're not even out of the gates.
You got your first bag.
That's right. You haven't even seen a plan, and then you've got to build your facility. So you'll spend another year or 2 years building it. Then you've got to get a permit. 3 years to get to the start line before you put a plant in the ground.
So you're in 21 now.
Well, so luckily, we go hunting 2019, and we find a site that was in Bill Turner's files, buried somewhere. There's a site that they'd rejected. And Matty goes, I'm going to go have a look at this site. Site's got a glass house. Site had a cannabis license on it. Site was almost ready to go, and the guys who owned the site had also given up.
Oh, yeah. Ran out of steam.
Ran out of steam.
Yeah.
Ran out of steam.
And that didn't scare you, though? That didn't make you think,
I'm
everyone's
fucking
gonna-
stupid. Of course it did. Of course it did. Yeah. Right? Like this
But you
is
saw the opportunity.
not even just that. Look, saw the opportunity, saw the chance to leave a legacy, saw the chance to play a very small role in plants versus pills.
Well, you had your why, didn't you?
Yeah, we had
You
our
had your
why.
why, and that's why you kept. Oh, these guys have run out of steam, and it's sitting here doing nothing. Yeah, we'll do that. The why kept you bowling through.
100%, 100%. And so we decided to buy the site. Now we're capital guys, right? Like you said, two corporate nerds, right? We're capital guys. Yep. So we go, all right, let's raise the capital. We want $10 million.
So can I ask you that? So how do you go about raising capital on an idea, for the people at home, especially weed? Most people are going to be adversaries like you. Yep. So how do you go and sit in these boardrooms and pitch a bloody crazy idea like growing tons of weed?
Look, for me, I guess it's probably a little bit about that Sun Tzu sort of philosophy of burn the bridge or burn the boats. You make a call and you make the call that says this is it. And you can't, we're going to get philosophical here, right? Like, I think the world's changed now, right? Everybody gets a ribbon. Everybody's a genius. Everybody should follow their dreams. I want to be a brain surgeon, right? But I'm really fucking sick of the sight of blood and I'd faint every time. Can't be a brain surgeon, right? So you've got to be careful about knowing what your lane is. And we figured out very quickly that what our lane is that we're open-minded. You had Matt, Ben and myself, corporate, cannabis, cultivation. We talk about those three legs of our stool, put those together. And now what we did is we took cannabis out of the picture. We're farmers with an F. Don't think about the cannabis side of this when you're raising money. We were thinking about the commercial. I'm putting myself in the guy's shoes who wants to write a check. And I'm saying, why would you write a check? Secured business, protected by the Office of Drug Control. There's a moat around us. Growing market. 1 million kilos of cannabis consumed in Australia every year based on wastewater research.
And is there a breakup of how much of that's on the black market and how much of that's...
We're estimating the legal market today is about 100 to 135,000 kilos. And you've got 1 million kilos.
Of flour?
Now of flour. Of flour. We'll come to the flour piece. So we'll go back.
Yeah.
Right.
Go.
So we decided to raise some money. By the way, COVID was just coming, right? And I didn't believe COVID. I'm just like, forget this COVID thing. It's just a cold. And we were raising $10 million. We had 9 million raised. We're after the last mill. Last meeting in Brisbane. And we go to Brisbane, 111 Eagle Street. Never forget it. We go to Brisbane. We're doing this meeting in a boardroom on, I'm going to say it was level 26. And someone says to us, we're downstairs having coffee, and they go, oh, they've just cleared one of the floors. Someone had COVID. Oh, fuck this COVID shit, whatever. Anyway, so we go to the meeting. We do the meeting. We secure the last million. We've got it. 10 mil. We're ready to go. Next day, they're talking about lockdowns, right? Our money disappeared overnight. All $10 million gone. So now I've got a farm with a contract, cannabis license ready to go, no money, and we're in lockdown. So back to burning the boats, burning the bridges. Matt and I put a mortgage on every single property we had. We bought the farm. Bought the farm ourselves and said, we'll mothball it if we have to, but we're not letting this opportunity go. Imagine going home to your wife and saying, honey, I want to mortgage everything we've busted our ass for the last 45 years. I could be really wrong and you could be living in a cardboard box.
Yeah,
have I got you back?
To be fair, me and Pete have done that, haven't we, Pete? I think that's a path you got to go all in on your business if you believe in it.
And this goes back to the question about your listeners, your viewers. What do you have to do? Got to go all in. It ain't no hobby.
Yeah.
It's no hobby.
It's not a side business.
Correct.
You just can't get there. The competition's too fierce.
Too fierce.
Yeah.
And you got guys with nothing to lose.
Can I ask though? You mentioned about the property had the license.
Yes.
So the licenses, they're not connected to individuals. They're connected to entities that are attached to land.
So the second piece, attached to land, absolutely always. So
Okay.
the license is attached to the land.
Why is that?
Well, because you're getting approval for a
Right,
facility
gotcha. It's
design.
almost like town planning approval.
Correct.
But ticking all the security and safety and all that kind of shit.
Correct. So if you
Gotcha.
had some plans for a building that are designed, you can't take that to next door and say, I'm just putting it on another address.
Yep.
You'd start the process again.
Gotcha.
But in this case, it was owned by a company. So we could buy the company
And make yourself, the
and still
directors
have to go through the process.
Yep.
Right. You still got to be fit and proper. So you still go through the process. But yeah, that's how you can make it happen. So we lose the money. We mortgage the properties. We buy the house. And all of a sudden, we go back to, as you said, being all in. There is something motivating and empowering for an investor when they know you are there with them in the trenches. So we took no wages. We said we don't take any money out of the business till we build it. We've mortgaged everything to be in here. Now write a check, even though it's COVID, now write a check and play with us. That encouraged people to come back in the journey and start playing with us. We did the retrofit ourselves. So we had a glass house, but it wasn't cannabis ready. So this is now 2020,
Yep.
October, right? So we're getting
So
to
you're
the...
2 years. You're 2 years deep.
We're in with no income, right? Mortgage on every property.
No plants.
No plants. No, that's right. Like no plants. We're still 12 months away from
Can
plants.
I quickly just are you assuming you're going to be able to sell this stuff? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of investment going into the license and I guess potentially where you're going to grow it and cultivate it. The assumption there is, I will build it and they will come. But from my life experience, that's not how it works, right? So, point, do you even know that you can sell it?
Yeah, so we
Who
actually
to sell it to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Look, we actually had a deal, and again, cannabis years are like dog years, right? Every year in cannabis is 7 years in life. We had a deal for someone to take all the volume, right? The facility can produce 5,000 kilos, right? And we had a deal to take all 5,000. We'd raise the money, we'd mortgage the properties, we're building the facility, we're getting ready to go. The deal blows up, gone.
Of course.
Gone. Like $14 million at stake right now. And you got nowhere to sell it. And we're thinking, oh my God, what's happening? And this was at a time, as we said, this was at a time when everything was oil.
Yep.
The world was all about
So
oil.
it still needed to be flour and then go through a full manufacturing process
Correct.
to become one of the oils, yeah.
It goes into extraction.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah,
head
so it gets
extraction.
extracted
Yeah.
and then it becomes an oil for people to consume. 2020, 2021, the birth of flour in Australia, legal, through a doctor, begins, right? All of a sudden now you can actually go to Dan the doctor instead of Dan the drug dealer and you can buy flour. And we're thinking, we were lucky. We're lucky COVID hit. We were lucky. And I so believe that you make your own luck.
Absolutely. You weren't lucky. You were out there putting yourself in the way of luck.
Yeah, we were. We were hustling. And one of our strengths as a company is that we are sponges. We're just learners, right? We just learn. We're researching the industry. We're checking every time. Every day we realize yesterday we were stupid, right? We're just always on that curve. And I think that helped us a lot because what it meant was when the industry was pivoting to flour, we were able to do the same. We were able to think through and say, hold on, you can't just produce any flour now. Remember, the illicit market's been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
100 years. If anyone smokes cannabis, they know good cannabis and bad cannabis, right? So now you've got to up your game. And we're like, all right, no worries. We'll start growing cannabis.
Right, because when you're growing cannabis that can be extracted for oil, it's less important the quality or even the look and the feel and the manicuring. There's just less work involved in the end product. But when you're selling flour as flour, and I guess competing as well, there's so many strains and different types and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you know? That's a great question as well. Like, how are you pulling? You say 5,000 tons. How are you
5,000 kilos.
5,000 kilos. Like, how are you figuring out? What strains to grow, what strength to grow, what the breakup of the different flowers? Because it's almost like a fad as well, or different strains will come through fads and phases and stuff, and people go, "Oh, have you tried this? Or have you done that?" Like, how are you guys figuring that out?
So because we're just a B2B cultivator, you're never going to see Biortica or Green Farmers. So Biortica is our parent company.
Yep.
Green Farmers is the growing entity. You're never going to see that in the market because I grow for other brands.
Right.
and they then put it out.
Distributors like Dispensed, is that one?
Oh, like if you think of ECS, ANTG, Canatrek, right? All of these sorts of brands that exist in the market.
Yep.
Right. We just generally grow commercially for another brand. Big guys, little guys, whoever they happen to be. There's so many. There's 90 brands on the market at the moment. And so we were very lucky because some of our early customers gave us the genetics they wanted us to grow.
Right.
It was already in the market. See, the Australian market, everybody promised the world. When we bought our facility, 4,000 square metres, we thought we're just going to be niche players. That's all. We'll grow a hobby business. A hobby business of $14 million, right? Like little hobby business growing 5,000 kilos of weed. Right? Like this will be really easy. So we're thinking medicinal cannabis, small player, because you had Can Group, announced 50,000 square metres. You had 2 facilities up in Townsville, 500,000 square metres. Right, like more than the world could consume twice in the year, right? It didn't matter because people were raising money frivolously. They were just going out there raising money on a promise, not on a fact. We always said, we didn't even announce that we were ready to grow cannabis till the day we got the permit because we already had a deal with someone to take the product. I didn't need to go raise capital. I didn't need to make headlines. So we didn't make any headlines. Our early customers brought us the genetic. We grew it for them. Happy days. But you're spot on.
The first crops, what were they like? Did you have any test ones and questions like what's the... Yeah.
Is he trying to upset me?
Yeah, so the first one was a disaster, was it?
It's funny.
And what's the grow time? How quickly can you grow?
Yeah.
12 weeks?
So, we're doing it in 12 to 14 weeks from start to finish. We're doing from cuttings.
Yeah.
So we've got our mother plants.
You clone?
We take clones.
Yep.
They go into the propagation room.
Yep.
Spend 2 weeks in there. Come out into veg to toughen up a little. Spend 2 weeks in veg. 8 to 9 weeks in flower, and it's harvested.
And are you trays or pots? Are they?
Yeah. So we originally were using a thing called rock wool.
Yeah, rock wool. Yeah.
Right. So we're using rock wool. Doesn't work for our facility.
Okay.
Our facility is a little bit short and fat like me. So it doesn't quite like the rock wool. It needs to have something different. We're now doing koya, right? So cocoa. That works better. They're in pots, but not in actual pots, disposable little pots. So we use them once and get rid of them.
Yeah, like the net bag ones.
Correct. So we grow in that now, and we find that works well. Our 4,000 square metre facility is a perpetual harvest. So it's broken into 20 little grow areas.
Yep.
Each grow area is 100 square metres, and that basically is harvested 6 times a year. So that allows us to do 128 crops. If one crop goes to shit, no big deal.
Right. What would make a crop go to shit?
Oh, look, it could be anything.
In such a controlled environment.
Yeah, so look, we're a highly controlled environment. You're spot on. We use Argus control systems, manages temperature, manages humidity, but we're glass house. And we choose to be a glass house so we can leverage natural light when we can, leverage the outdoor environment when we can. Sometimes that means that something will go wrong in a crop. You might get a pest outbreak in a crop because you do have your netting on your screens, but things come in. You might have human error. Someone turns off the irrigation manually, right? And you're thinking you're irrigating away and you've got a bunch of plants that are dying. That happens. But when you've got a perpetual harvest of 128 harvests a year, you're never burning down the business because you lost a whole room, right? It's just incremental.
And can I ask, when it comes to manicuring, how is that done? Is that manual? Are you sitting there? You've got, the
my little trimmer's sitting there
trimming and stuff. Like, how does that work?
Again, because we're B2B.
Because that's a time-consuming part of. Would you agree? Like it's super time-consuming manicuring.
Oh, absolutely. But because we're B2B, we just do what our customers want.
Right.
If a customer says, "I want you to take only the biggest buds in my jar, and I want you to hand trim it," we'll do that. But that changes the price, right? That'll affect.
And you have employees that their job is to sit there and hand trim.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So we have a post-harvest room.
That's wild.
So if you think about the steps, we've got effectively production.
You must have some cameras in that room.
Oh, we've got cameras everywhere. Trust me. You can't scratch your nose without someone seeing it and saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have production, we have cultivation, then you have post-harvest. And in post-harvest, if you want it machine trimmed because you want the cost to come down, we'll machine trim it. If you want it hand trimmed, we'll hand trim it. If you want a combination, we'll do a little bit of both. We check every bud before we send it out. Remember, this is medicine.
Yeah.
This is the big difference about going to Dan the doctor versus Dan the drug dealer. We can't spray pesticides. We are doing TGO 93 and TGO 100 testing.
You also know what you're getting, right?
100%.
That's the key. The key difference is when you're just going on the black market, all the buds are just look like buds. They're all green, but you don't know whether you're getting sativa, indica, and they do two different things. And you also don't know what kind of strength you're getting because you might just want something mild. And then, so can I ask, what's the strongest THC level you can grow?
There's no ceiling.
There's no ceiling. Because I think you see in the market like 32s and stuff like that. I've never really seen much higher than that. But you're saying you can grow higher than that.
I'm not saying you can grow higher than that. There's no ceiling.
Okay.
I think even once you start seeing something that starts with a 3, like you're probably pushing the boundaries of what the plant can do.
Okay.
And even then I'd question some of those test results.
So even some of those 3s that are getting around,
there's only so much
self-proclaimed 32%.
Well, you still got to get it tested.
Oh, okay.
So you still have to do a COA and get it tested. But there's only so much percentage THC that you can get out of a bud in the surface area, right? So, and I think also this is a little bit like, I liken it a bit to alcohol. So, we talk about that I was an adversary. Now I'm an advocate, and I've seen that the sky doesn't fall in.
Yeah, I'm an advocate as well. Yeah, I can say, and I'm sure my mum, God bless her, wouldn't mind. But my mum, had cancer, and she was a deeply religious lady and never smoked and completely healthy. But towards the end, I had a good friend of mine. This was before you could go to the doctor now, and it just goes to show that it was the right decision by my mum, right? Because I guess she was ready to try anything, and when you get to that point. But she did, man. It helped her, mate. She had it was coconut oil.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's just, so it would have been a little jam jar,
Yep.
right? And shout out my mate Philly. He's a legend. He came over. He sat with my mum. He explained to her how he made it,
Yep.
and it helped her with her appetite and helped her with her sleep and stuff. But all it was a little jam jar of coconut oil, and she would take a little teaspoon and either put it in her coffee or she could just put it on her tongue. And then it would, and it was just like, and I got to experience that firsthand. So I got to see how that helped my mum. So I'm absolutely an advocate. And that's why I was super keen to have you on, because it's almost like, even the stigma, even to Pete now, like even Pete will say, like Pete's so distanced from, marijuana smokers or marijuana or and has been for his life. So he's, instantly you hear marijuana, you're thinking gateway, you're thinking drugs, you're thinking...
Yeah, I don't know. I know it's a bit of a natural play, so I like that aspect to it, you know what I mean? But haven't had the pleasure and sort of, probably got other vices in my life. But yeah, love...
That was a nice little throw in there.
Love hearing the upside and the benefit of it. So, Tom, can you talk to us about the benefits that you are seeing and I guess where it's trended from when you started to sort of where we are today?
Yeah, and if we just go back to that 1 million kilos, right, that's being consumed today, 100%, a third of that is rec. Just guys who are consuming it for a little bit of fun, rather than alcohol, rather than any other drugs, right?
Yeah.
But 2/3 of that market, in our estimate, 2/3 of that market are using it medicinally.
Is that in the controlled market we're talking about?
No,
in
listen,
the open market.
In the open market.
Okay, yep.
2/3 are using it medicinally in some way, shape or form.
But they have to get it illegally.
They're buying it illegally. And so let me unpack this medicinal piece. Why do I say that? Let's just say you smoke cannabis because you have insomnia, right? You could go to the doctor and get sleeping pills, medicinal.
Yeah.
Let's say you're suffering from pain, anxiety, depression, right? All of these sorts of issues, endometriosis, right? Recently, a lot of work's being done about the benefit of cannabis and endometriosis, right? So there is a lot of things that people are self-medicating.
That's what I was going to say. So there's a very blurred line there, right? A very, very blurred line with those stats where you go 2/3, but there's a massive percentage of those are self-medicating, would put themselves in the recreational category, but the reality is, if they really stripped back why they were doing it, they were self-medicating because it helps them sleep, it helps them with anxiety, or whatever it is. It centers them. It takes
Centers them.
Yeah, it makes them where your center is. It takes them to where they find peace or center or ease or whatever. Here is my thing, and for the people playing along at home, for me, and I can talk to me personally, I'm one trip to the doctor and one bad decision away from saying, yeah, give me that. And then my fucking 25-year journey of self-medication on flour, right, on natural flour, would be completely different because, like you said, you're talking about it being a gateway. So's the fucking pills. Like, don't talk to me about marijuana being a gateway or
jump
flour.
on the opioids.
Yeah, exactly. You jump on or the benzos and stuff. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, you jump on the benzos or any of that kind of stuff. They're the gateway. They're not even the gateway. They're the full game.
They're the full game.
Yeah, they're not even they're the full game, and the doctor will just give you that if you say the right shit to him. At least now you can sit there and there's definitely an option. There's something in between before you start taking Restovits and all this other shit that helps you sleep.
And I don't want to get into the history, the politics, why it happened, etc., why we became through a period of prohibition, because I worry that sometimes when you get down that, you go down a rabbit hole that has no end, right? The other side of that now is we have a legal framework. Yeah. The answer is, how do we bring this legal framework together? How do we break down the stigmas? We don't hang shit on a builder who has 2 or 3 beers at the end of the day because he's a bit sore and that's his way of calming down. But if he rolled a joint and had a smoke, we'd be like, whoa, what's Steve doing over there? Like, did you see what he just did behind the truck?
Hear that smell? What's that smell? What's going on with that?
That's right. Yeah, I like that. Where is he?
Where's that drone?
And so, I think the list, the new world that we're in, and the list that we see that people say you can benefit with, and the cross-section of society that we now see that are using cannabis and have used cannabis. I ran into a lawyer, and the lawyer said to me, oh, look, I have a little bit of cannabis every night because if I don't, I'll be up all night. I can't sleep. I don't function. I need to have it, right? So these are people who are using it for the insomnias. They're using it for the pain. They're using it for inflammation. And by the way, there's CBD, non-psychoactive, THC, psychoactive. So, I have a lovely friend of mine, one of my great mentors, Tony Kronolovic. He's been in my life for 30 or 40 odd years, right, as a mentor. And I hope Deb doesn't mind me saying, right, but Deb has some health challenges. And we were in cannabis, we're having a chat. I talk to Tony quite often. And eventually she started asking some questions about, cannabis and how it can help, etc. We traveled to Europe last year together. And after a week of being in Europe where she couldn't have her meds, she said, Tom, if I ever thought this cannabis thing was just in my head, and by the way, if it isn't, it's working, I don't care, right? But if I thought it was in my head, I'm a week in with no CBD during the day. I'm a week in without having some sort of THC at night to help me sleep. I'm now feeling like shit. My pain is back. My joints are sore. I'm having difficulty walking, right? So this notion that cannabis is the evil drug, that cannabis is the gateway, I think is a fallacy. Let me tell you what is a gateway. Dan, the drug dealer, is a gateway. He wants to make sure that you're moving up through the product curve, right? That's his job. The other thing is non-controlled access to drugs is a difficult thing. So now if you go to Dan, the doctor, you get a script, I don't know, wedding cake was a strain that had been doing the rounds, right, on the illicit market. And you get wedding cake as a script. And you come and see the doctor and you say, you know what, I felt a bit funky, right? Like I wasn't quite right. Like I think I was seeing pink elephants in the room. Okay, wedding cake's not for you. Let's get you off that. Let's get you onto another strain, right? You're in a controlled environment where that can be managed. And go back to the tested piece. If we put a product on the market, it's 20% THC, we have to be plus or minus 20% is the current Australian tolerance, but our customers demand plus or minus 10. So that 20% THC, think of that as your alcohol content in a beer. That 20% THC can be 18 or 22. That's the range.
Yeah, right.
That's the range.
Very
so you
range.
now know every time I have this, it'll perform pretty much the same. And if you get out of that, then it's out of spec. We can't sell that product into there, right? We have to grow it again. So it's a very different world. And I want to make sure I'm being very clear. I am not saying cannabis cures anything. I just want to make sure, right? This
I
is a SASB drug. It's not had the same research, not had the same, clinical sort of research that our other medications have had, right? The plant is a plant, but it is a great complementary medicine. It is a great assister. And for many people, it actually can become their primary rather than a complementary. And that is fantastic.
What are the barriers? Like, what's the downside to this thing?
So we're so highly regulated. There is so much security around a facility. If you're looking to get yourself some easy drugs from somewhere, you're not coming into one of our places, right? Like it's not worth it, right? You'd rather go knock over somebody else's facility in the illegal market. So that's not really a problem. And when you have a look at it from the ODC's perspective, the way that they do their checking on each individual that's in the industry, even if you've got any association to that part of the world, you're just not in it, right? Like they just don't approve you. What are the downsides? If you have an addictive personality, right, and you now get to a point where you're consuming cannabis, you find that it's working, but it becomes a crutch, like any other medication, like alcohol, like opioids, we've seen this before, and you don't have the checks and balances in place, that's where it can create problems. But we see that with alcohol, right? Like the damage that alcohol has done. Now, I would also argue that there are many things that can happen with other products that just can't happen with cannabis. I've never seen two guys go out, get stoned out of their mind and bash each other. Yeah. They may be hugged in the corner, told each other how much they love each other and opened a few packets of chips and pizza, but they never got into a fight. The health impacts on your physical body, right? Liver with alcohol, right? It's just not there, right? It's not there. Now, there are other things, though. They talk about the impact on the brain and the developing brain. So there's things...
Where is the science at with that, from your understanding? Do you have anything you can share on that?
So the science is in a funny place right now. We haven't got enough pharmaceutical interest and backing to really want to do some big research on cannabis itself. People will play around the edges, and there is some great research going on in this space. But because it's a plant, if you can't patent it, if you can't protect it, if you can't make it proprietary, you can't own it, then the value of doing it is very little. Now, some of that has happened with oils. Some of it happens with delivery systems. There's a great company, IX Syrinx, that are doing wafers under the tongue.
Yeah. Do you know much about the delivery systems? Because I know in Australia, in the medical, they recommend the dry herb vaporizer. They also have the vape pens.
Vape pens,
and the vape pens, correct me if I'm wrong, they're nothing like a vape that the kids have at school or whatever, because those vapes, they're burning and they're chemicals and whatever, whereas the THC vape pens, the oil's been extracted, so it doesn't have tar and shit. So
correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
So that when you have a vape pen, it doesn't have the tar and all the bad shit going in you. So it's one of the safer ways to ingest.
Look, so vape pens are taking the world by storm. In the cannabis world, because they're convenient and easy, and they're there.
But not to be confused with your normal vape at the cigarette shop, right?
No, that's right. That's right. Completely different. And you're spot on. Extracted, oil, heated, vaporizers consumed.
Yes.
The predominant delivery method by medicinal cannabis patients, though, is a vaporizer. So you're taking dry flower.
So the dry herb vaporizers?
Correct. You're a Mighty, for example, and those sorts of things. And you're taking a little bit of the dry flower, you're putting it into a chamber, and then that is actually heating that up.
It's like an oven.
And extracting the oil, extracting the vape that's coming off that. It's evaporating, and then you're consuming that.
Yeah. And the way that they're doing it is not burning it, so because it's just getting heated in like an oven and it extracts it, it makes it safe.
Correct. And you're not putting anything with it. You're not putting any tobacco in there. You're not putting anything in there. It's just heating up the dried flower. That's still one of the best ways for people to access the medicine. And that takes away the smoking. So if you were to roll a joint, you're burning it. Right, so this way it's not burning, it's just vaporizing. You can control the vape temperature, so that can get different aspects of the product to be activated more or less. So there's some benefits there, but it is being inhaled.
Yep.
And that's still one of the best.
So inhaling is still dangerous? Is that
No.
So it's not necessarily just because it's being inhaled doesn't by default make it dangerous.
Correct.
Right. My assumption would have been that it would be. Do you, PK? Do you know what I mean? If you inhale something, that it's...
Well, think of it like a Ventolin.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So think of it like a Ventolin.
Like it's more about what's going in rather than...
Yeah, true.
So, if you had a Ventolin that you had to then light in a joint and smoke and it was burning and you're consuming some of that burning action, 100%. But the idea of taking that away and just going straight to sort of the vaporization.
And that's why they have, it was same with the CBD, they have those glass bong-like things and then they put now
you're getting into the world of dabs and stuff like that.
That's what I'm talking about. So they use the spoon and then they heat up the glass and then they put the dab on that.
Correct, same principle. So again, what you're trying to do is...
So you're not burning it.
You're not burning it. You're not getting that flame and that aspect to it. And so go back to what, we were talking about with the genetics, and where the genetics are heading. We realised early on in the piece. So, actually, you asked a question about our first few crops. Right? Let me tell you, when we grew our first few cannabis crops, we thought we were rock stars. Like we really did. You grow plants and you see some product come off and it's rolling off the facility. Customer was taking it. So we're selling the product and making money out of this. And we're thinking this is fantastic.
It's been a long time coming too.
Been a long time.
You've done your piece, you've earned your stripes and now it's happening.
Yeah, that's true. And we thought we'd earned our stripes, right? we realised we probably hadn't. We were still very naive and you start selling and the market's taking it and you think it's great. And we start learning more and more about the industry. We start hanging out with people growing overseas. We see imported flower coming in. I can tell you now, I've said this on another podcast on it's called Give and Toke. It's around, the Australian cannabis industry. And I said to Paul there as well, when I look back at our first 50 crops, I'm fucking embarrassed. I am embarrassed. I cannot believe we called that cannabis, right? But the market was in its infancy. And we were still on our learning curve. And by the way, this is why we do 128 crops a year. So that learning curve was 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months.
What was the issue? Would you say that it was the seeds or the clones that you started with? Or was it the method in which you were growing? Or was it a combination of all of it?
Where did we get it wrong? Look, cannabis is not a weed, right? Like it's not the sort of thing that you just go, chuck some seeds in the ground and life will be okay. Particularly when you're growing for commercial aspects, when you're really trying to get this right. So, in those scenarios, I think we had some issues with temperature. We had some issues with humidity. We had some issues with irrigation while you're cutting your teeth and really learning that every single variety wants its own recipe. It wants its own treatment. I say to everyone, the cannabis plant is a cross between a moody teenage girl and a sweaty teenage boy.
Is the goal weight, right? Because cannabis is sold in weight. So are you guys in the back room of your facility trying to figure out how to grow more dense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because you're selling by weight. So if you can sell these little nuggets that weigh, whatever, then you're going to increase your yield?
You certainly are, but you touched on it before. Aesthetics, smell, potency, weight, colour. Like all of these come into the mix. Nobody goes and buys an orange and then all of a sudden evaluates the orange the same way a cannabis, user evaluates their flower, right? Because they're evaluating it on all these criteria.
Yeah, true.
And all of these are impacted by all different things. A temperature variation, a light level change, all can impact the quality of the flower that you produce. Your pH and your EC going into the plant, what you're feeding it, how much you're feeding it, when you're feeding it, how you're drying back.
Look at you go now.
Let him off the chain.
Yeah. No, that's crazy because it's wild. Like only 3 or 4 short years ago, you didn't know how to grow weed at all.
Shit, no.
Can I say as well, like I'm trying to think, there's a lot of waste. When you go and you manicure these plants to get the nice buds that you're going to sell for a premium, there's a lot of waste. Do you guys use the waste for anything, or does it just gets burnt and goes to the bin?
Yeah, correct. It just goes for secure waste at the moment, secure waste removal. And part of that is just knowing what business we're in. We're in the business of producing flour.
Staying in your lane, not trying to go and turn that into oil or
Correct.
fucking dab. Yeah.
Correct. Like if we mucked around with that, could you make a few bucks? Yeah, sure. But it might be 5% of your revenue, 3% of your revenue. We're better sticking to our lane, focusing on producing high quality buds, maybe reducing the waste removal cost.
Yeah.
Try to get that down so that it doesn't cost you so much. Over time, we might be able to put it to something exciting, but right now your focus has to be on your core business.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's maybe like bringing a landscaper in to finish off your property.
Yeah.
Right, you go.
No, plenty of analogies there. I reckon Benny's brain's thinking about it now.
Yeah, this has been
Good
absolutely
points,
fascinating, Tom, because there's so many people. I feel like it's still, like you're saying, it's still bubbling under the surface, man. Like the people that know, but there's still so many people out there that aren't aware that cannabis is available medicinally, and then the benefits and the direction that it's going and stuff. So
1,000%. Yeah. But it's been awesome.
And the number one thing that I would say about that is go talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
Just go talk to your doctor.
And you just be honest.
Yeah, be honest.
That's all you can do is just be honest. But I would argue that, if your doctor tries to give you like Restovits or something to help you sleep, or, I would say...
That's probably the
is there
trick
any
as well.
chance
The doctors need to sort of catch on as well. Is that fair to say? Like
they need to start...
They were educated a certain way, and they've got their underlying
Correct.
beliefs and unconscious or conscious biases. So if you go into the source, the trusting source that's sort of like, nah, we do it like this. It's like...
it's not putting
is there like there's a journey that needs to happen there?
Is it being considered by... That's a great question, PK. Is it genuinely being considered by every doctor? You go to your normal GP, or do you need to do... like what I did, someone told me who to ring, which doctor to ring, and it was online and it was free, and he goes, and I go, and then fucking 5 minutes later, it's fucking in the fucking post, you know what I mean? A few years, well, that's literally,
great.
Or
fantastic description. Yeah.
Fucking game on. Or, you're going to your local GP, and it's just, Frank, who's been a GP for, 30 years, is he sitting there? Is he appreciating...
this?
Yeah, is he across it? And is he appreciating that it's a genuine option? And not only a genuine option, but in many, many cases, the best option. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like
100%.
our old school GPs aren't sitting there looking at it like it's an option. And I can say that from experience, because I've definitely been to my normal GP and been honest about, me, what I'm doing. And I didn't go to him for the prescription. Do you know what I mean? So, does that make sense? Is that part of the problem?
100%. And you're right about the doctors. There are a lot of doctors who are not prescribing. There are a lot of doctors who aren't necessarily advocates.
And think they know better.
And that's fine. So I think, to me, the big piece is it's really about the individual. So if as an individual you don't feel comfortable necessarily going to your doctor, then go to one of the clinics.
Yeah.
Go to one of the clinics. Put your health first. Go to one of the clinics, and by the way, men are horrible at this stuff, right? Like, if we had other problems, sometimes we don't go see a doctor till it's way too late. So I think that's a real challenge for men in general. I think that is changing a lot. But if you're not comfortable seeing your GP that you've been seeing for 20 years about this, and you are a cannabis user and you do want to come into the legal world, then okay, go see a clinic. If you're not a cannabis user and you're going, hey, I'm hearing some really good stuff about this, have a chat with an independent clinic. But if you can, start with your GP. Start with your doctor.
Because they know your history.
They know your history, and I think that's really important that you've got someone that knows your history, because maybe it's not for you.
Eyes wide open. Tom, this has been amazing, mate.
Mate, I really enjoyed it. This was fantastic.
Well done, and it sounds like there's a few extra 4,000 square metres going to pop up here and there. So
do you do tours?
Sounds like you're
tours down there?
No, we don't do tours.
You're not allowed to.
But for you two boys, I'm happy to go
I would
down.
love to come and...
Done.
Are you allowed to do that?
It's a date.
Oh, we're doing
it's
it.
a date.
Yeah,
Let's come down.
I'd love to come and do a walkthrough.
It's going to be an amazing space to watch, through our generation of like as it adopts and...
the stigma gets removed, and it gets
interesting,
and it starts to get leveraged for what it can genuinely be leveraged for.
100%, and I guess for everyone out there, for some of your viewers who are watching this, who maybe are in the adversary point of view, the first thing I'd be saying is I was there. I was there, right? Like let's just take a moment. Let's think about the people that it's helping, the people that now aren't on antidepressants, or the people that now aren't on sleeping tablets, or the people who are now managing different parts of their life, managing their pain, managing their sleep. There is so many aspects to this. We have seen markets around the world go medicinal, full recreational. Canada's sky hasn't fallen in. America's, hasn't imploded. Maybe it's imploding now for different reasons. It's got nothing to do with cannabis. Maybe someone needs some cannabis over there, and that might actually get something. Maybe tariffs have disappeared. Who knows, right? But we haven't seen markets implode.
Yeah.
But I was there. I'm living proof that says, by the way, going from adversary to neutral doesn't mean that I'm sitting here now, PK, saying, here you go, take it.
Yeah,
It doesn't
right.
have to be.
Can I ask your kids? This is a great way to look at it. If you had a 15, 16-year-old daughter like I did,
Yes.
and you I guess you've got the knowledge that you have with the benefits of medicinal marijuana or cannabis. How conflicted would you be at that point? Like, have you put yourself there where you go, shit, do I really believe the stuff I'm saying? Because I guess the one way to find out would be, when you got your 15-year-old daughter there and you're thinking, well, if it really does help people and she really is positioned there where, it feels like it could help her, would you pull the trigger?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've got 2 older kids, all right, 35, 31, but I got a 2-year-old granddaughter.
What'd you have them when you were 5 or something?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I got it wrong in sex ed. They were putting the condom on bananas. So every time I had sex, I put the condom on the banana. And clearly that was the wrong shit, right? That's not what you were supposed to do. That's an oldie but a goodie. I look at little Lyra and I say, what's important to me? Think of it like the Europeans and alcohol. Right? Like that's how I often sort of, liken it. Would I want her to be in a safe environment? Would I want her to get safe product? Would I want to make sure that she's not dealing with, the underworld to source her cannabis at the age of 15 or 16, right? Not have to send her down a dark alley to buy a little bit of cannabis because she wants to have a smoke with some friends.
But if she didn't know anything about cannabis and it was not crossing her mind and it wasn't in her world, would you introduce it into her world as a dad if you from the outside saw that you felt like, from everything you'd learnt, seen, read and experienced, that you genuinely thought, I reckon it might chill her out a bit, maybe she's, maybe she, whatever the case may be, and you might, but that might chill her out, might help her. Would you introduce it, do you think, or would you still be conflicted? Because you know what I mean? Because it's,
I wouldn't be conflicted.
You wouldn't be conflicted?
No.
Yeah, because I'm asking myself the question. I don't know the answer. Like as I'm asking you, do you know what I mean? I think I would have been before
what's
today.
What's the difference if I take her down there and someone says, "Oh, you got ADHD here. Let's get you on Ritalin."
Well, I think you know what you're spot on, and I think
that's the way
Ritalin,
I'm hearing is it's medicine.
It's medicine.
But Ritalin, for example, Ritalin's short term, right? So Ritalin's different again. Ritalin can be short term, and you have it, and then it's out of your system.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
But the marijuana we're talking about, it's medicine now.
Yeah,
to
so
me,
you wouldn't starve your kid of medicine.
No, interesting.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So before today, because I do have a 15-year-old daughter, like before today, I'm saying I'm not introducing it to her, which would say even me, who believes in this stuff, has this underlining thing that it just makes me still feel like it's dirty or it's illegal or it's bad or whatever. And maybe because I've been conditioned to being told that for 30, 40 years.
That's right. 100%.
Because I'm sitting here going, you're sitting here because you didn't go through my experience. You only really came into this world 4 or 5 years ago, so you can look at it objectively. But I'm sitting there going, like I don't know if I would, but I think now from talking to you and if I genuinely, my heart thought it could help, I think, maybe I would. Yeah.
So I go back to your question on 2 levels. Would I sit down and just go with no reason, no benefit, no core need, and just go, here, try this? That doesn't work. Yeah. Love what you said. Why would we deny someone medicine? And I think this is where we're heading to. This is the stigma, the barrier, and PK, the adversary that's just cracked the nut, right? Because you actually have just hit it on the head. If we believe that medicinally it can make a difference, why are we sitting here with our head in the sand, not making it available, not making it something that we would put on the table?
Not recommending.
It's got to sit in the suite. And let me tell you, there are some horrible side effects with medicine. There are some amazing benefits. I've heard someone say before, cannabis can cure cancer. Right? Oh, like really, no one in the world wants to believe that more than me, right? No one in the world wants that to be true more than me. Like I really want that to be true.
Imagine that,
right?
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
But if you're going through chemo and you're feeling down and you have appetite problems and it can be sleeping issues and it can complement that and play a role. I mean, the amount of people I know that take it for debilitating pain and then they're smoking cannabis, and it allows them to move
Just
again,
takes the
allows
edge
them
off
to
the top.
function.
So it
Takes
doesn't
off.
cure it, doesn't fix it.
No.
But what it does do, it takes that 5% off the top so that they can move around and be in their life, opposed to being that 5% just going.
They're functional.
Yeah.
We're only here for a certain amount of time, so however you want to get through it in the most enjoyable way possible, and if that's what it is.
I have one last question.
One
PK.
last one, Benny.
One last
Come on.
question. Growing up, they used to have the High Times magazines, and
Yes.
they'd have the growers, the growing competitions and stuff. Are you all in, you boys over at Green Farmers and Biortica or whatever it is?
Biortica.
Biortica, are you over there creating those strains, or you over there doing the genetic over in Canada? Are you competing? You're taking your flower to the
100%.
and how we
The Royal Show
to the Royal Show?
To the
yeah.
Royal, we are. That's right.
to
the
get
Royal-
the sash.
and how are you tracking? Like, how have you had any awards, or is getting close? What's it?
A number of our breeds and our breeders. So we work with a bunch of breeders. A number of our breeds and our breeders have won awards at Emerald Cups, etc., those sorts of things. And particularly our breeders. We're always trying to work with guys who are doing the right thing and who are out there creating new strains. We have a lot of fun with that sort of stuff. And then we bring those strains into our business. It's called Apollo Green in Canada. So we bring it into Apollo Green, and Apollo Green can then take that genetic to the world. We can take it to Israel, Spain, Portugal, Australia. And now we're giving a breeder who has won some recognition for the work that they've done, and we can give them global access. So we're doing that. I'm not personally, right? Like, we got the team that does that sort of stuff and our breeders that do it. But it's still a very big piece of the industry. It's phenomenal to have a genetic or to have a breeder that gets recognition at that level. No different than a wine award, a cattle award.
What's separating them? What can you tell us the nuances that are separating these buds? Like, because for me, like the ones that have been around for years, Boy Scout cookie, bubblegum, all of that. Like, why do we need to be constantly crossbreeding and coming up with new genetics? Does that make sense? Like, is there a reason for us to keep going, or?
In a medicinal world, there's no... Well, in a medicinal world, the reason is that you might want to keep trying new things to see if it makes a difference, right? So certainly in the medicinal world, that's the piece of it. But we have to accept that the North American market is a consumer market.
Yep.
It's just FMCG. It's new beer flavors. It's new wine flavors.
It's all marketing.
It's hard solo.
Yeah.
It's all the marketing, right? Like it's just constantly...
Mike Tyson,
That's it.
whatever.
And flavor changes.
Yeah.
Flavor changes. We go from fruity beers to now lagery beers to pale ales, and that'll just happen, and the market shifts, and we've gone from diesel to sweet to sour to high THC, mid THC.
Sativa, indica. What do you grow more of? What would you say is the one?
You're getting into a tough area here, because I think the sativa and indica aspects now we've probably moved beyond,
because it's hybrid. They're all hybrid.
So many hybrids. There's so many differences. In the old days, sure, that sort of worked, but that's more about plant morphology than it necessarily is about the impact of the flower itself. There is a lot of work.
Well, I thought it did impact the flower, because I thought, like, well,
it's the old
school way, in the couch.
Right, that's it.
In the couch. So you go, oh yeah, I like being in the couch. I'll go with that one.
100%. And if we go back in time, that certainly resonated more. Now with so many hybrids, the reality is there's only one way you're going to know, and that's to consume it.
Right. So it does. So even when you do see sativa, indica, and hybrid, for the most part, they're all pretty much hybrids anyway.
So much breeding. Go back to the FMCG conversation we had.
Righto.
So much into breeding, so much work going on. And there's actually some great research. I don't want to digress too much. Great research that's been done about the time you harvest the plant. Were the trichomes clear? Were they milky? Were they amber? And what impact early or late harvest can have on the impact of consuming the product. So there's you got to understand, it's been in prohibition for 100 years. So all of this horticultural and agricultural research that we could have done on it wasn't being done because people were home growing or growing illegally. Now, finally, we're doing it. We have a lot of catch up to do. We're learning about this plant every day. I love the idea of going, I say to everyone, I'm just a dumbass. Every day I realise how stupid I was yesterday. We learn something new about the plant, about the growing, about the morphology, about the trichome ambering and the impact that has. So I think the answer is that indica and sativa are less relevant today than they've ever been. It doesn't mean you shouldn't use them as a start. It's like saying I prefer a Merlot to a Shiraz. I'll do that. And maybe if I do and I have a Shiraz, I might still go, hey, shit, that was actually pretty good. It worked. Or I had the Merlot and go, oh, shit, that was pretty bad. I didn't like that. Same thing. And probably therein lies why it's great to have a doctor. Therein lies why it's great to have the variety that we have today, because you can try things and say, Doc, you said that was going to help me sleep.
Wasn't strong
Man,
enough.
I was cleaning the house.
Yeah.
I was smoking. I was cleaning the house. I was up and I had pep in my step. I'm writing my next podcast. Yeah. I was ready to rock. I've designed a new building. Like I did the opposite, Doc. Yeah. Okay, don't have it. Yeah, Let's go to something else.
Cool. Well done, Tom. We're going to wrap this up, mate. It's been awesome. And thanks so much for coming in.
Guys, thank you for having me. Again, really appreciate it. I was still pretty sure you got the wrong Tom Varga at the start, but now I can see why we were here. And look, it was great. And thanks to your viewers and listeners for playing along with us.
Well done. And we'll book in that trip to head up the farm.
Absolutely.
We're doing it. No, we'd love to have you down.
Like, share, subscribe. See you at the top.
People want to be part of a winning team.
People can find a better version of themselves if they choose.
You just need to go start some shit.
Action is all that matters.
Be a man of your word. I think I look back now and I'm like, whoa, that took some guts.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
See you at the top. New episode every Wednesday.